Dr. Quan Dae-jung stared at the same white walls he had been staring at for 6 months. The research station floated in the darkness of space, far from Earth, far from anything interesting. He was supposed to feel honored. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 3 years ago, and here he was, trusted with protecting endangered animals from his home planet. But Dae-jung was dying of boredom. The station was huge, filled with biodomes that recreated different Earth environments. There were pandas munching bamboo, snow leopards prowling through artificial mountains, and sea turtles swimming in crystal-clear tanks. Every animal was precious, endangered, saved from extinction by the galaxy's conservation laws. Dae-jung's job was simple. Watch them. Record their behavior. Make sure they stayed healthy. Never ever let them out of their habitats. The problem was his supervisor. Clicking Mandible of Protocol was a Velthi, an insect-like alien who stood on 6 legs and loved rules more than anything else. Dae-jung just called him Click. Every single day, Click reviewed every single report with his clicking mandibles, finding problems where there were none. This report lacks proper formatting in Section 7, Click would say, his translator making his voice sound like a monotone computer. It's a report about a panda eating bamboo, Dae-jung would reply. What formatting do you need? Procedure must be followed, always. The other staff members were just as boring. Softwing Flutter, a Plixian who looked like a floating jellyfish with wings, was terrified of everything. When Dae-jung once sneezed too loudly, Softwing Flutter had hidden in a supply closet for 2 hours. But there was one creature on the station that made everything interesting. His name was Rocket. Rocket was a honey badger, a small animal from Africa that most aliens had never heard of. He was about 3 feet long with black and white fur, small eyes, and an attitude that could fill a battleship. The scientists who had sent him to the station had labeled him aggressive and difficult to contain. They had no idea. Dae-jung had noticed something during his first week. Rocket was smart. Not just animal smart. Actually, genuinely intelligent. He watched the security cameras and learned their patterns. He figured out when the feeding systems activated. He even learned that if he stood in certain spots, the motion sensors would trigger the doors. 3 times Rocket had escaped his habitat. 3 times the station went into panic mode. 3 times Dae-jung found him calmly exploring the corridors, looking for something interesting to destroy. This animal is dangerous, Click had said after the 3rd escape. Perhaps we should increase sedation protocols. He's not dangerous, Dae-jung argued. He's bored, like me. You are projecting human emotions onto a simple Earth mammal. He's not simple. Watch him, but Click wouldn't watch. None of them would. They saw Rocket as just another animal to catalog and store away, so Dae-jung started running his own tests. Late at night, when the station was quiet and Click was in his rest cycle, Dae-jung would visit Rocket's habitat with puzzles. Simple ones at first. A locked box with food inside. Rocket figured it out in minutes. Then harder puzzles. Multi-step problems that required planning and memory. Rocket solved them all. Dae-jung started keeping 2 sets of reports. The official ones for Click, boring and properly formatted, and his own private notes, filled with observations about Rocket's problem-solving abilities, his fearlessness, and his absolutely zero concern for anything that might hurt him. Honey badgers from Earth were already famous for being tough. They fought lions. They ate venomous snakes. They raided beehives and ignored thousands of stings. But Rocket seemed to take it further. He didn't just ignore danger. He seemed offended by the concept that anything might be dangerous to him. 6 months into his assignment, Dae-jung had filled 3 private notebooks with observations. He was considering writing a paper about animal intelligence that would shock the scientific community. Then everything changed. It was a normal Tuesday, if days in space could be called Tuesday. Dae-jung was doing his morning rounds, checking on the animals and pretending to care about Click's new filing system for report submissions. Rocket was destroying an enrichment toy in his habitat, looking pleased with himself. That's when the alarm started. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A computerized voice announced in multiple languages, "Warning. Unauthorized vessels approaching, warning. This is not a drill." Dae-jung ran to the command center where Click was already panicking, all 6 of his legs trembling. The main screen showed 3 ships approaching fast. They were ugly, brutal-looking vessels covered in weapons. "Krillax raiders," Click said, his voice shaking. They steal rare animals and sell them to black markets. Our shields cannot stop them. Our weapons are minimal. This station was never meant for combat. Have you called for help? Daejung asked. Yes. The Galactic Defense Force will arrive in 3 days. 3 days? They'll be here in 3 hours. Procedure requires we retreat to the emergency bunker and wait for rescue, Click announced. All personnel report to the core section immediately. The other staff members started running toward the bunker. Softwing Flutter was already crying, making small sobbing sounds that his translator couldn't quite handle. Daejung stood still, thinking. 3 days until help arrived. 3 hours until the pirates broke through. And then what? They hide in the bunker while the Krillax steal every animal on the station? While they take Earth's endangered species to be sold like property? No, that wasn't acceptable. Dr. Daejung, you must come to the bunker now, Click insisted. There is nothing we can do. But Daejung was already walking away, heading toward the habitat sections. Where are you going? Click called after him. To talk to Rocket. This is not the time for your unauthorized experiments. We must follow procedure. Daejung didn't answer. He was running now, an idea forming in his mind. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It violated every conservation protocol ever written. But sitting in a bunker doing nothing? That was worse. He reached Rocket's habitat and pressed his hand against the glass. The honey badger looked up at him with those small dark eyes. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Human and animal. Scientist and subject, I know you're smart, Daejung said quietly. I know you understand more than they think. And I know you're as tired of this boring station as I am. Rocket tilted his head, listening. So here's the deal. I'm going to let you out. I'm going to give you some upgrades, and then we're going to show these pirates why messing with Earth animals is a very, very bad idea. Rocket made a sound, something between a growl and a chirp. If Daejung didn't know better, he'd say it sounded like agreement. That's what I thought, Daejung said, pulling out his toolkit. Let's get to work. Daejung's hands moved fast as another explosion rocked the station. The Krillax were cutting through the outer hull, and he could hear their plasma torches burning through metal. He had maybe 20 minutes before they breached the intersections. Rocket sat still on the examination table, watching him work. The honey badger hadn't fought or complained once. It was like he understood this was important. First came the environmental suit. Daejung had designed it months ago as a theoretical project, a way to let small Earth mammals survive in hostile environments. It was lightweight, flexible, and covered most of Rocket's body while leaving his legs free to move. The helmet was clear, giving him full vision. This will let you breathe anywhere, Daejung explained, even though he wasn't sure how much Rocket understood. Even in vacuum. Even in toxic atmospheres. You'll be safe. Next were the claws. Rocket's natural claws were already impressive, but they couldn't cut through alien metals. Daejung carefully fitted each claw with a diamond carbide tip, the hardest material available on the station. Each tip was razor sharp and could shred through most known armor. These will hurt them, Daejung said. A lot. The micro-thrusters came next, small jets built into the suit that would let Rocket maneuver in zero gravity. Daejung had tested them 100 times on drones, but never on a living creature. He hoped they would work. The last piece was the most experimental. A neural interface, a small device that would attach to Rocket's skull and create a limited link between his brain and Daejung's handheld computer. It wouldn't let them have conversations, but it would allow basic communication. Simple commands. Simple responses. This might hurt a bit, Daejung warned. He activated the interface. Rocket's eyes widened for a second, then went back to normal. On Daejung's screen, a simple indicator glowed green. Connection established, Daejung typed a message. Can you hear me? On the screen, a simple response appeared. Not words, but feelings, confirmation, understanding, and something else. Eagerness, another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered. We're out of time, Daejung said. He opened the habitat door and stepped back. Ready? Rocket jumped off the table and landed smoothly. The suit moved with him perfectly. He tested the enhanced claws, scraping them against the metal floor. They left deep grooves in the supposedly scratch-proof surface. Daejung smiled. Good, now listen. Bad aliens are coming. They want to hurt our home and take the animals. We need to stop them. He pulled up a station map on his screen and showed it to Rocket. They're coming through here. The ventilation system connects to every part of the station. You can move through it faster than they can move through the corridors. He sent another message through the neural link. Protect our home. The response that came back was so strong it almost knocked him over. Not just agreement, pure absolute determination, mixed with something that felt like joy. Rocket was finally getting to do what honey badgers did best. Fight. Go, Daejung said. Opening the vent cover, Rocket disappeared into the darkness without a sound. Daejung ran toward the command center, his heart pounding. This was insane. He had just released an enhanced predator into a space station. If Click found out, he would be court-martialed. If the Galactic Council found out, humans might lose their seat at the table. But if he did nothing, everyone on this station would die or worse. He reached the command center and locked himself in. The security cameras showed the Krillax boarding party entering the station. There were 12 of them, big reptilian aliens covered in combat armor. They moved with the confidence of people who had done this 100 times before. Their leader, Scarlix, was the biggest. His armor was decorated with trophies from previous raids. He carried a plasma rifle that could probably blast through a tank. Spread out, Scarlix ordered in their hissing language. The station's translator turned it into something Daejung could understand. Find the animals. Find the researchers. Make it quick. The Krillax split into teams of 3, moving through the corridors with military precision. They knew what they were doing, but they didn't know about Rocket. Daejung switched to the ventilation camera feeds. At first he couldn't see anything. Then a shadow moved. Fast. Impossibly fast for something so small. The first Krillax team was examining the panda habitat when it happened. One moment they were there, scanning the area with their weapons ready. The next moment, a small black and white shape dropped from a vent above them. Rocket hit the first Krillax at the weak point where the helmet met the armor. Enhanced claws tore through metal like paper. The alien went down screaming. The other 2 spun around, trying to find the threat. Rocket was already gone, back in the vents before they could fire a shot. What was that? One of them shouted into their communicator. Unknown contact, another team responded. We heard screaming. What happened? Something small. Fast, The second Krillax's words cut off as Rocket dropped on him from behind. This time the honey badger went for the power pack on the back of the armor. Sparks flew. The armor shut down, leaving the alien helpless inside his own suit. The third Krillax finally got a shot off, but Rocket was already moving. The plasma bolt hit empty air, then hit the wall, then hit his own teammate as Rocket circled behind him, using the alien's own bodies as cover. Daejung watched in amazement. Rocket wasn't just attacking randomly. He was using tactics, using the environment, thinking several moves ahead. All teams, we have a hostile creature loose. Scarlix's voice came over the communicator. Small, fast, dangerous. Stay together. Watch the vents, but watching the vents didn't help. Rocket could fit through spaces the Krillax couldn't even see. He could wait in darkness without moving for minutes, then strike when they relaxed. He felt no fear, no mercy, no hesitation. The second team went down near the snow leopard habitat. The third team near the sea turtle tanks. Each time the Krillax tried to adapt, tried to defend themselves. Each time Rocket found a way through. Scarlix himself finally encountered the honey badger in one of the main corridors. The big alien fired his plasma rifle the moment he saw movement, blasting holes in the walls and floor. Rocket dodged every shot using the micro thrusters, moving in impossible directions that no Earth animal should be able to move. Then Rocket closed the distance. Scarlix was strong, trained and armed with the best weapons his people could make. Rocket was 3 feet long and weighed maybe 30 pounds. It wasn't even close. The enhanced claws found every weak point in the armor. The diamond carbide tips tore through the power systems, the weapon mounts, and the communication gear. Scarlix swung his massive arms, trying to grab the small attacker. But Rocket was everywhere at once, on his back, under his legs, climbing his armor like it was a jungle gym. In less than a minute, Scarlix was on his knees, his armor sparking and useless, his weapons destroyed. Rocket sat on his chest and made a sound that the neural link translated as simple satisfaction. Daejung opened the command center door carefully. The corridor was a mess. 12 Krillax raiders lay unconscious or disabled, their expensive armor ruined. Not one of them was seriously injured, but all of them looked terrified. Rocket trotted over to Daejung and sat down, his tail swishing slightly. The honey badger looked pleased with himself. Good boy, Daejung said, his voice shaking with relief and disbelief. Very good boy. Through the neural link, he felt Rocket's response. Not pride, not excitement, just simple contentment. This was what he was meant to do. This was what honey badgers were made for. Click emerged from the bunker, his mandibles clicking in shock. What?
What happened here?
We defended our home, Daejung said simply. Just like I told you we would. Somewhere in the distance, sirens announced that the Galactic Defense Force was finally arriving. 3 days late. But it didn't matter anymore, the battle was already won. The Galactic Defense Force ship was enormous, bristling with weapons and filled with soldiers who arrived expecting a rescue mission. Instead, they found themselves trying to process what had happened. Commander Yuna Haiwan was the first through the airlock. She was human, which made Click visibly relax. Maybe another human could talk sense into Daejung. She was tall, with short black hair and the kind of calm confidence that came from years of military service. She took one look at the 12 disabled Krillax raiders, their destroyed armor, and the small honey badger sitting calmly next to Daejung, and started laughing. Let me get this straight, she said, still smiling. One researcher and a 30-pound animal defeated an entire raiding party? The animal did most of the work, Daejung admitted. Click stepped forward, all 6 legs moving in agitation. Commander, this human violated every conservation protocol. He weaponized an endangered species. He conducted unauthorized genetic modifications. He must be arrested immediately. Haiwan stopped laughing. He saved this station and everyone on it. The Krillax would have killed you all or sold you to slavers. Your procedure was to hide and hope they got bored? Procedure is procedure, Click insisted. Rules exist for reasons. Rules exist until someone changes them, Haiwan said. She knelt down and looked at Rocket, who stared back without fear. What's his name? Rocket, Daejung said. Good name. She stood up and looked at the damage to the station, the unconscious raiders, and the shredded armor. I need to make a report about this. The council is going to have questions. Lots of questions. Over the next week, Daejung learned what it meant to become famous in a galaxy of trillions. News of the battle badger spread through every communication network. Some species were impressed. Many were horrified. The Velthi filed formal complaints. The Plixians started a petition to ban all Earth animals from conservation programs. But the military was interested. Very interested. Daejung was called to give testimony to a council military committee. He stood in front of representatives from a dozen species and explained what he had done. Some of them looked angry. Some looked curious. All of them looked nervous. You took a protected species and turned it into a weapon, a Velthi counselor said. This is exactly what conservation laws were meant to prevent. I didn't turn him into a weapon, Daejung argued. Rocket was already what he was. Honey badgers are fearless predators. I just gave him tools to survive in environments his evolution never prepared him for. The suit, the thrusters, those were for protection. And the enhanced claws? Those were for fighting back, which he needed to do because your defense force was 3 days away. Nevertheless, you violated. He saved lives, Haiwan interrupted. She had been sitting quietly in the back, but now she stood up and walked to the front. I've read the reports. The Krillax raiders had orders to eliminate witnesses. Everyone on that station would be dead. Dr. Daejung didn't just protect animals. He protected people. The council members muttered among themselves. Finally, one of them spoke. What do you propose we do with this animal? I propose we let me keep working with him, Daejung said. Not as an experiment. As a partner. Humans have been bonding with animals for thousands of years. Dogs have fought beside us in wars. Hawks have hunted with us. Horses carried us into battle. This isn't about weaponization. It's about partnership. And if other humans want to do the same, create an army of these battle animals. Daejung looked at Rocket, who was sitting patiently by his feet, completely unbothered by all the attention. It wouldn't work. The modifications help, yes, but the real reason Rocket succeeded is because we understand each other. We trust each other. You can't force that. You can't manufacture it. It has to be real. Haiwan stepped forward. I have a proposal. Let Dr. Daejung continue his work officially. Form a special unit. Test whether this human-animal partnership concept actually works on a larger scale. If it fails, shut it down. But if it succeeds, she smiled. Well, maybe Earth brings something unique to the galaxy after all. The council discussed it for 3 hours. Finally, they agreed, conditionally. Daejung could continue his work under military supervision. He would report to Commander Haewon, and if anything went wrong, the whole program would be ended immediately. 3 months later, the K9 division was born. The facility was built on Haven 3, a neutral moon far from any major planets. It had habitats for animals, training centers for handlers, and enough space to grow. Haewon became the military liaison, handling politics and paperwork. Daejung became director of xenofauna integration, which was a fancy way of saying he got to work with animals all day. The first recruits arrived within weeks, soldiers who had heard about Rocket and wanted to try partnering with Earth animals, scientists who saw the potential, trainers who understood that this was something new and important. Corporal Jinho was a pilot with a love for birds. Daejung matched him with 2 ravens, clever blackbirds known for their intelligence. Jinho named them Hugin and Moonin after ancient Earth legends. The ravens were modified with neural links that let them interface with computer systems. They could hack alien technology using their beaks like tools, confusing enemies who never expected birds to be cyber warfare experts. Sergeant Mi-sun had been a search and rescue specialist. She bonded with a gray wolf named Storm. The wolf's senses were enhanced to detect life signs through rubble, water, even thin walls. Together, they became the best rescue team in the sector, saving people that others had given up for dead. Lieutenant Tae Yang was a genius pilot who had trouble trusting other humans as co-pilots. He bonded with an octopus named Maestro, a creature whose modified tentacles could operate 12 different ship systems at once. Together in their fighter craft, they moved like the ship was an extension of their own bodies. The youngest recruit was Private Yoon-hee, barely old enough to serve. She had bonded with a crow named Shadow while still in training. The crow was terrifyingly smart, learning to pick locks, steal access codes, and infiltrate secure areas by pretending to be a harmless bird. Yoon-hee and Shadow became a legendary infiltration team. But success brought attention, and attention brought enemies. The Krillax had not forgotten their humiliation. They wanted revenge. They wanted to prove that humans weren't special, that their animals could be beaten, that the battle badger was just a lucky accident. The Velti continued to protest, filing complaint after complaint about conservation violations. They had powerful friends in the council, and they were determined to shut down the K9 division. And then there were the Dominion, a supremacist faction that believed some species were meant to rule and others were meant to serve. They saw humans as dangerous primitives, too young to be in the galaxy, too reckless to be trusted. The K9 division proved their point, they claimed. Look at what humans did when given advanced technology. They weaponized innocent animals. The Dominion sent an assassin. His name was Vexor, and he was a Krillax who had been part of the original raid on the research station. He had escaped before the defense force arrived, but the shame of being defeated by a small Earth animal had driven him mad. He spent months upgrading himself with cybernetic enhancements, faster reflexes, stronger limbs, built-in weapons. He infiltrated Haven 3 during a routine training exercise when security was focused on helping Jinho's ravens practice intercept maneuvers. Vexor moved through the facility like a ghost, avoiding cameras and guards. His target was simple: kill Daejung, destroy the K9 division's leadership, prove that humans were weak. He made it past the outer security, past the automated defenses, past the guard stations. He found Daejung in one of the training rooms, working on new equipment designs. He raised his arm, plasma weapons charging. Rocket hit him from the side like a missile. Vexor was bigger, stronger, and covered in cybernetic armor, but Rocket didn't care about any of that. Enhanced claws met cybernetic plating. Micro-thrusters let the honey badger dodge strikes that should have been impossible to avoid. Fearlessness met calculated hatred. The fight destroyed the training room. Equipment exploded. Walls cracked. Vexor used every weapon in his arsenal. But Rocket was too fast, too angry, too absolutely done with people threatening his human. When Daejung and the other handlers finally arrived, Vexor was unconscious on the floor, his cybernetics sparking and useless. Rocket sat on his chest, calmly grooming himself. Is this going to keep happening? Haewon asked, looking at the destruction. Probably, Daejung said. We're proving that humans and animals together are stronger than most species alone. Some people won't like that. Good, Haewon said. Let them come. We'll be ready. 2 weeks later, Haewon called an emergency meeting. Her face was grim as she pulled up a holographic display showing a fleet of ships moving toward Haven 3. "The Dominion is done sending assassins," she said. "They're sending an army." Dae-jung studied the display. 15 warships, 300 soldiers, more firepower than a small moon should ever have to face. When? 2 weeks. Maybe less if they push their engines. They're broadcasting demands. We surrender the animals for disposal. We submit to Dominion oversight. And humanity accepts proper supervision from what they call responsible species. Jin-ho stood up, his ravens perched on his shoulders. "And if we refuse? They'll take what they want by force. They're calling us a threat to galactic peace, saying that weaponized animals violate a dozen treaties. They have support from the Velti and a few other conservative species." "The council?" Mi-sun asked, Storm lying at her feet. "Split. Some support us. Some think we've gone too far. Most are waiting to see who wins before they pick a side." Haewon's expression hardened. "We're on our own." The room went quiet. Dae-jung looked around at his team. 30 handlers, 30 animals, against an invasion force designed to wipe them out. Tae-yang spoke up from the corner, Maestro's tentacles wrapped comfortably around his shoulders. "We can evacuate. Take the animals somewhere safe. Come back when we have support." "No," Yoon-hee said quietly. Shadow the Crow made a soft cawing sound as if agreeing. "If we run, we admit they're right. That we're dangerous. That humans can't be trusted. We run now and we'll be running forever." "She's right," Dae-jung said. "Besides, where would we go? Any planet that takes us would become a target. We stand here or we lose everything we've built." Haewon smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "I was hoping you'd say that. Because I have a plan. It's risky, maybe crazy, but it might just work." For the next 2 weeks, Haven 3 became a fortress. Not in the traditional sense. They didn't have the weapons or shields to match a Dominion fleet. But they had something better. They had creativity, desperation, and animals who didn't know how to quit. Jin-ho's ravens, Hugin and Moonin, were sent out in modified stealth drones to map the approaching fleet's communication systems. The birds' enhanced intelligence let them understand alien technology in ways that baffled the Dominion's security experts. They planted backdoors, collected passwords, and generally prepared to cause chaos. Mi-sun and Storm trained for urban combat, turning the facility's corridors into a maze of traps and ambush points. Storm's enhanced senses could detect enemies through walls, giving them an impossible advantage in close quarters. Tae-yang and Maestro worked on their fighter craft, modifying it with weapons scavenged from the station's limited armory. The Octopus could operate targeting systems, navigation shields, and countermeasures all at once, making their small ship far more dangerous than it had any right to be. Yoon-hee and Shadow prepared infiltration protocols. If they could get Shadow onto one of the Dominion ships, the Crow's intelligence and modified talons could cause havoc from within. And Rocket? Rocket trained like he was preparing for a war, which Dae-jung realized he was. The day the Dominion fleet arrived, the sky above Haven 3 turned dark with ships. They moved into formation, weapons charging, projecting power and absolute confidence. The Dominion commander, a species called the Vothrak who looked like armored bears, broadcast his final demand: surrender in 1 hour, or we will take what we want and destroy what's left. Haewon's response was simple: come and take it. The Dominion came. The first wave of soldiers landed in drop pods, expecting light resistance. They found the facility seemingly empty, abandoned. They moved cautiously through the corridors, weapons ready. Storm smelled them 3 floors away. Mi-sun got the warning through their neural link and positioned her teams accordingly. When the Dominion soldiers rounded the corner into what looked like a storage area, they found themselves in a killing box. Not with lethal weapons. Haewon had been clear about avoiding unnecessary death, but with stun weapons, foam grenades, and a gray wolf who moved through the smoke like a ghost, taking down soldiers before they could raise an alarm. In space, Tae-yang and Maestro engaged the Dominion fighters. Their ship shouldn't have been able to survive against 6 enemy craft. But Maestro's ability to multitask turned every disadvantage into an opportunity. While enemy pilots struggled to aim, track targets, and maintain shields all at once, Maestro did all of it simultaneously. The small fighter danced through space, dodging, weaving, and striking with impossible precision. Jin-ho's ravens accessed the Dominion fleet's communication network. Suddenly, orders got confused. Ships received contradictory commands. Targeting systems locked onto the wrong targets. The flagship's captain found his personal files broadcast to the entire fleet, including some very embarrassing messages. Shadow infiltrated the command ship by riding in on a supply shuttle, pretending to be a harmless bird that had gotten lost. Once inside, the Crow systematically sabotaged life support in specific sections, forcing the Dominion to redirect troops to deal with emergencies that didn't exist. But the Dominion commander was smart and experienced. He realized they were facing coordinated resistance and adapted quickly. He pulled his scattered forces together, concentrated his power, and prepared to simply blast through the facility's defenses with overwhelming force. That's when Rocket entered the battle. The Dominion's elite unit, their best soldiers wearing the finest armor, breached the main habitat dome. They moved in perfect formation, covering each other, ready for anything. They weren't ready for Rocket. The honey badger came out of the ventilation system like a natural disaster. Enhanced claws tore through armor. Micro-thrusters let him move in 3 dimensions, bouncing off walls and ceilings. The neural link connected him to Daijung, who fed him information about enemy positions, weak points, and tactical opportunities. But Rocket barely needed the help. He fought with an intelligence that shocked the Dominion soldiers. He used their own tactics against them, waited for them to bunch up, then struck the leader, disabled their communications, destroyed their heavy weapons, and he did it all with an expression that suggested he was having the time of his life. The elite unit fell back in disarray. Their armor was in pieces. Their confidence was shattered. And worse, their commander was watching the security feed, seeing his best soldiers defeated by a small earth animal who weighed less than their combat boots. Then the reinforcements arrived. But not Dominion reinforcements. Ships started appearing in orbit. Dozens of them. Human ships from colonies across the sector, each one carrying handlers and their bonded animals. News of the battle had spread, and humans had come running to defend Haven 3. They weren't military ships. Many were cargo haulers, personal transports, even tourist vessels. But each one carried people who understood what the K9 division represented, a new way of thinking, a partnership between species that the galaxy had never seen before. The Dominion commander looked at his tactical display. His troops were scattered, confused, and demoralized. His elite unit was defeated. His communications were compromised. And now he faced not just one station, but dozens of ships filled with humans and animals working together. He made the smart choice. He retreated. As the Dominion fleet pulled back, Hei-Wan stood in the command center with Daijung watching the enemy ships disappear. Around them, handlers cheered and hugged their animal partners. "We won," Daijung said, not quite believing it. "We survived," Hei-Wan corrected. "But yes, we won." She looked at him seriously. "This changes everything. The galaxy just saw that human-animal partnerships aren't a novelty. They're a legitimate tactical advantage. Other species are going to want this. They're going to study us, copy us, maybe fear us." Rocket climbed onto Daijung's lap and curled up, exhausted from the battle but content. Through the neural link, Daijung felt the honey badger's simple satisfaction. "Let them try," Daijung said, scratching behind Rocket's ears. "They can copy the technology, but they can't copy this." He gestured at the handlers and animals around them. "This bond, this trust, this understanding. That's what makes us strong. Not the enhancements. Not the weapons, us," Hei-Wan smiled. "When did you become a philosopher?" "When I got restless and decided to weaponize a honey badger." They both laughed, the tension of the battle finally breaking. Outside, more human ships were arriving, bringing supplies, offering help, celebrating the victory. The K9 division had proven itself. But more importantly, it had proven what humanity could bring to the galaxy. Not just technology or military might, but the unique ability to see potential partners in other species, to build bonds that made both sides stronger. The battle was over. But the real work was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Haven 3, Daijung stood in front of the Galactic Council for the second time, but this time was different. He wasn't defending himself. He was presenting results. The council chamber was full. Representatives from every major species watched as holographic displays showed footage from the battle. Rocket taking down the elite unit, Storm detecting enemies through solid walls, Hugin and Moonin hacking into military-grade systems, Taeyang and Maestro performing impossible flight maneuvers. The K-9 division has completed its trial period, Daejung said, his voice steady and confident. We faced a superior military force and won, not through superior weapons or technology, but through partnership, through understanding between humans and animals that goes beyond simple training or control. A Velthi counselor, not Click but someone similar, stood up. You still violated conservation protocols. You turned protected species into weapons of war. We didn't turn them into anything, Daejung replied. We gave them tools to express what they already were. Wolves have protected human communities for thousands of years. Ravens have shared information with humans since ancient times. Octopuses have shown intelligence that rivals many spacefaring species. We didn't change their nature. We partnered with it. And the honey badger? Another counselor asked. You expect us to believe that small creature is naturally capable of defeating trained soldiers? Daejung smiled. Honey badgers are naturally capable of fighting lions, raiding beehives, and surviving snake venom that would kill most creatures 10 times their size. They're fearless, intelligent, and absolutely stubborn. I didn't make Rocket dangerous. Nature did. I just gave him the ability to survive in space and communicate what he wanted to do. The council murmured among themselves. Finally, the head counselor spoke. What you're proposing changes the fundamental nature of how we view endangered species protection. If we allow this program to continue, other species will want similar programs. The galaxy could fill with enhanced animals. Good, Haewon said, standing up beside Daejung. Let them try. But they'll discover what we already know. The enhancements don't matter if there's no bond. You can give a wolf advanced armor and weapons, but if it doesn't trust its handler, it's just a dangerous animal. The partnership is everything. She pulled up new data on the displays. We've been contacted by 37 different species asking for help starting their own programs. Not to copy us, but to learn from us. They want to understand how humans form these bonds, how we see potential partners where others see simple animals. And you think you can teach this? A counselor asked skeptically. No, Daejung said honestly. We can't teach it, but we can share our experience. Help other species find their own way to connect with their planet's creatures. Every world has animals with unique abilities. Every species has the potential to form partnerships if they approach it correctly. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, the K-9 division was officially recognized as a permanent institution. Haven 3 would become a training center, not just for humans, but for any species wanting to learn about human-animal partnership principles. The Dominion sent a formal apology. It was brief, clearly forced, but it was official. They recognized the K-9 division's right to exist and promised not to interfere again. Daejung sent back a single image, Rocket, wearing his combat harness, staring at the camera with an expression that clearly said he didn't care about their apology or anything else. Because honey badgers don't care. And that message was received loud and clear across the galaxy. 3 months later, Haven 3 was unrecognizable. The original facility had been expanded 5 times over. New habitat domes housed animals from Earth's forests, oceans, deserts, and mountains. Training centers taught handlers from multiple species how to approach bonding with animals. Research labs studied the science behind human-animal partnerships, but the heart of it all was still the original team. Jinho and his ravens, a Sun and Storm, Taeyang and Maestro, Yunhee and Shadow, and Daejung with Rocket. They had become famous across the galaxy. The Battle Badger and his human. Stories about them were told on 1,000 worlds. Some were accurate. Many were exaggerated. All of them missed the point. Daejung sat in Rocket's habitat watching the honey badger destroy another supposedly indestructible toy. Through the neural link, he felt Rocket's contentment, not because of fame or recognition, but because he had interesting things to do and someone who understood him. I got a message today, Daejung said, even though he knew Rocket couldn't understand complex speech. The neural link carried emotional context, which was enough. From Earth. From the conservation scientists who sent you here. They want to know if we can send you back now that you're safe. Through the link, Rocket's response was immediate and clear. Absolute refusal. This was home now. This was where interesting things happened. That's what I told them, Daejung said, smiling. Besides, I think you'd miss me. Rocket's response to that was more complicated. Not exactly agreement. More like acknowledgement that Daejung was useful for opening doors and providing food and fighting alongside him when things got interesting. I'll take that as a yes. Daejung said. Haewon entered the habitat carrying a data pad. We have a problem. Another invasion? Worse. Paperwork. The council wants detailed reports on every animal in the program. Full medical histories. Behavioral analyses. Projected expansion plans for the next 5 years. It's going to take months, Daejung groaned. This is why I became a scientist. To avoid paperwork. Should have thought of that before you started a revolution, Haewon said, but she was smiling. Though I have to admit, when I joined the Defense Force, I never thought I'd end up commanding an army of enhanced animals and the humans who love them. Is that what we are? An army? We're something new, something the galaxy hasn't seen before. Humans have always been good at making friends with other species. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We partnered with cats and horses and birds. Now we're just doing it on a bigger stage. She sat down beside him, watching Rocket investigate his latest toy destruction. Other species are starting to try. The Plixians are working with their planet's aquatic creatures. The Vothrak are attempting to bond with their mountain dwellers. It's not going well for most of them. They're trying to copy the technology without understanding the relationship. They'll figure it out, Daejung said. Or they won't. Either way, we've shown it's possible. That's enough. A young handler newly arrived from Earth appeared at the habitat entrance. Dr. Daejung? Sorry to interrupt, but I have a question about bonding protocols. Come in, Daejung said. What's the question? I've been working with a small Earth animal called a mongoose. The preliminary tests show high intelligence and fearlessness, but I can't seem to establish a connection. The animal doesn't trust me. Daejung stood up and walked over, Rocket following at his feet. How long have you been working together? 2 weeks. That's not very long. How much time do you spend with the mongoose outside of formal training? Outside of training? None really. I thought the neural interface would handle the connection. Daejung shook his head. The neural interface is just a tool. It helps you communicate, but it doesn't create trust. That takes time, real time. Not training sessions, just being together. Learning about each other. Understanding each other. He pointed at Rocket. I spent 6 months watching him before I ever modified him. Learning how he thought. What made him curious. What made him angry. By the time we bonded, I knew him better than anyone else in the galaxy. And he knew he could trust me. The young handler looked at Rocket, who was now sitting perfectly still watching the conversation. It's really that simple? It's that simple and that hard, Daejung said. The enhancements help. The technology helps. But the core of it is just caring. Really caring about your partner. Seeing them as an individual, not a tool. The handler nodded slowly. I think I understand. Thank you. As the handler left, Haewon smiled. You're good at this. Teaching, I mean. I'm good at understanding animals, Daejung corrected. Teaching humans is harder. Says the man who weaponized a honey badger because he was bored. I prefer to think of it as giving Rocket opportunities to express his natural talents. They both laughed. Outside the habitat, Haven 3 bustled with activity. New recruits training. Scientists researching. Animals and humans learning to work together. It was chaotic, messy, and absolutely nothing like the quiet research station where this all started. Daejung looked at Rocket, who had returned to destroying his toy with focused determination. Through the neural link, he felt the honey badger's simple satisfaction. This was a good life. Interesting. Full of challenges. Perfect. You know, Daejung said quietly, I was supposed to just catalog behavior and file reports, keep everything safe and boring and properly documented. And instead you changed the galaxy, Haewon said. No, Rocket changed the galaxy. I just gave him the chance. Through the neural link? Rocket's response was clear. They had both done it. Together. Like partners years later. When historians studied the moment humanity truly became a galactic power, they pointed to many things. Earth's technological contributions, diplomatic achievements, military victories. But the people who were there knew the truth.